Hello, nonprofit rock stars and heroes. This is Tom Check with Greater Impact Consulting, where we help you streamline Salesforce for your nonprofit. And today we are talking about apps in Salesforce. Now, it can get a little confusing in here because we're not talking about apps from the AppExchange. We're talking about apps that are accessible within the app launcher, and there is some overlap there. So don't worry, we're going to dive in so that you don't get confused when you're setting up a custom app. But the important thing to think about with apps is that they're a way for you to make sure that the different parts of your team get exactly the tabs and the home pages that are most valuable to them without having to see all the noise of stuff they don't use. And you can do it without having them have to personalize and customize everything. So one of the use cases here would be your program team versus your development team. Your program team probably doesn't need to see all the opportunities and donations that are going on in your org. And your development team probably doesn't need to see all the service deliveries or all of the campaigns or all of the, whatever other objects the program team is using. So how do we separate those? The answer is we build custom apps for each team. And that sounds like a lot of work, but it's not. Salesforce has made this a surprisingly easy process. So let's dive in and see how it works. Okay, so this is what most of you are used to seeing when you log into Salesforce. And this, believe it or not, is an app. This specifically is the Nonprofit Success Pack app. So our app launcher over here on the left-hand side allows us to see all the different apps that are installed in our org and that are accessible to our profile. By default, it goes to whatever app you used last. So when you logged out last time, if you were using Nonprofit Success Pack, that's the one that it logs you back into. If you were using Program Management Module, that's what it logs you into. If you were using an app from the AppExchange, that's what it logged you into. And all apps is a way to create access and availability to tabs and to customizable home screens, these home screens. And we're going to get into how to customize those in the next video, so we're not going to cover that today, but I do want to let you know that apps are what determine which home screen and which tabs are available. So what does a different app look like? If you're used to always logging into Nonprofit Success Pack, what other apps are available? You can always go down and click View All, and this will show you all the apps that are in your org. Now, generally, when you install an app from the AppExchange, that online kind of app store for add-ons to Salesforce, most of the time, those apps will create their own separate app manager entry, one of these apps that you see in this window, so that you can access the information that they're using. A good instance of that is like MailChimp for Salesforce. You see that in here. If you're using MailChimp and you've installed that app from the AppExchange, you get access to the MailChimp for Salesforce app here. And these tabs you don't find anywhere else. The MC Setup, the MC Campaigns, the MC Subscriber Activity. But you're really used to seeing contacts, leads, and reports, as well as the home screen. So how do they determine what shows up where? That's done through the custom apps. I'm going to show you another one that might be really familiar to some of you, and that's Program Management. If you're using the PMM, the Program Management Module, you'll notice that these are totally different tabs than we're used to seeing in Nonprofit Success Pack. This is engagements, service deliveries, contacts there's overlap with, but then we've got programs, cohorts, services, reports, tasks, and some additionals. So some of these are accessible in multiple apps. Some of them are only accessible in specific apps. So how do you design an app for your teams? Let's say that you want to create a custom app for your development team so that they don't have to see as much stuff. Well, it's pretty easy. First off, what we have to do is we have to go in to Setup. And once we're in Setup, we're going to use the Quick Find box and we're going to search for App Manager. And this will show you all of the different apps that are installed in your org. Now we can easily create a new one by going to New Lightning App. So let's go ahead and do that. And first we have to name it. So we'll go ahead and name this Demonstration App. developer name automatically comes in. It's always best practice to add a description so that anybody browsing through the app manager knows what this is. Used for 2021 demo of app building. Now, if you've got a custom logo that you have for your org, you can go ahead and upload that here. As a developer org, I'm not allowed to do that because I don't have file storage. You can also customize the colors. If you've got a specific color code that your organization uses, like this gosh awful green, you can make it so that that is the app's default color. And you'll notice that it shows up on the app launcher preview, and it's also going to show up when you're going through tabs on the app. We hit next. Now, an important thing to know here is the navigation style. Most of you are probably used to only using standard navigation. That's what most of the apps we interact with use. There is another type of navigation called console navigation, though, which uses it's a lot more like tabs on a browser. So if we go into like Sales Console, I'll show you what this looks like. So it can keep tabs open from previous sessions that you've had. So if you want to keep the same opportunities or the same contacts or accounts open, it allows you to do that. And basically what it is I've got different tabs here, like this test kiosk campaign. And within here, I can navigate just like I normally would, but it's here in this tab, and I can go back to it at any point. And here I've got a contact TomCheck, and I've also got the household that TomCheck is associated with. And if I want, I could also open this opportunity, and all of it is open within the TomCheck contact tab. So that's a really cool part of the console navigation that some of your users might really benefit from, especially if they're accessing same things over and over again. So that's what this is asking you when it says, which navigation style do you want? As far as supported form factors, this is, do you want people to access it just from a browser window on a desktop computer or a laptop? Or do you want them to be able to access it from their phone on like the Salesforce One mobile app? Or do you want them to be able to access it from either? So that's what that's going to determine. Setup experience determines which setup options are available in there. By default, you're usually going to leave this as just setup. If you've got a really specific use case where you're only using service or you only want people to have access to service setup options, you would go ahead and select that box. Now, down here, you can make it so that users cannot customize or personalize the tabs and the navigation items that are available in this app. And that just takes checking that box. So if you don't want people to be able to add additional tabs in there that they use, go ahead and check that box. Once you hit next, you have the option for utility items. Most orgs, especially small orgs, don't use utility items, but you can set up things like macros, notes, flows. Sometimes some of the AppExchange apps that you download will have utility items that you can add. But for now, we're not going to worry about that just because it's a bit beyond the scope of a basic app. Our next screen is identifying which navigation items we want in there. So in this case, let's say we're building this for the development team. We know they're going to be accessing accounts. We know they're going to be accessing contacts, as well as, of course, opportunities. That's their bread and butter. We probably want them to have access to recurring donations within Salesforce. And then we probably also want them to have access to campaigns, since they are using those for tracking a bunch of their interactions. We also probably want them to have a home screen, and the home screen is used for holding dashboards. Again, we're going to talk about that in the next video. We're not going to get around to the full scope of customizing that today, but in general, it's good practice to add them a home screen, especially if you've got a dashboard you want them to be seeing on a regular basis. Once I hit next, now we determine which profiles can access this app. And this is really important. If this is a development app, I probably don't want to add my program people's profile to it because they don't need to access it and I don't want them to access it. But if it's somebody who can access it and I just don't, I'm not going to make it their default, they can go ahead and have it available to them. So let's say for this instance, I'm going to make this custom sales profile accessible to it. I'm going to make the system administrator profile available to it, because that's always important. Me as the system admin, I want access to this. Now, if you're not familiar with profiles, or this is kind of Greek, or if you're like a 3-person team and everybody's a system administrator, while we really don't recommend that that setup is what you keep for long, in that case, you would just want to make sure that system administrator is in the selected profiles. Once I hit save and finish, now I can go access my new app. And I might have to refresh the screen, I might not, let's see. So there it is, demonstration app. It's that gosh awful green that we selected. And when I open it, what I'll see is it's just the tabs that I selected in there. So I don't see reports, I don't see programs or service deliveries. All I see are what I added to that app. Anytime I want to edit this, I can of course go back in to setup and find my app in the app manager again. And I can edit this so that I can keep it pertinent to the people that are using it. So I would find my demonstration app here, number 10. I would go in and I would select edit. And it takes me right back to a screen, and now it's just all on the left-hand side here. Same options. The only thing you can't really change is the navigation style or the app personalization settings. Actually, you can change those, just not the navigation style. You can change the navigation items. So I can go in and I can say, oh, you know what? My development people really do need access to affiliations. That's important. Great. And I just hit save, and then they'll be able to access it. Or, oops, I forgot a profile. I can go in and I can make sure that my analytics cloud security user is added in there. Hit save. Great. And then when I refresh my page here, what we should see is that that new tab, the affiliations tab, pops in at the end of this list. So that's the very most basics of building a custom app. And you can use it to effectively make it so that the different teams within your organization have easy access to the information and the objects that they use most. We're going to touch next video on customizing this home screen that you're looking at now so that you can customize this per app. So that's what's coming up next. And until next time, keep up the great work of creating meaningful impact in your communities.